Hey everyone, and welcome. From all of us here at the IELTS Focus, we're so glad you're joining this masterclass. If you're ready to really tackle the IELTS reading test and see that score go up, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're going to break down some super important skills. So, for this session, we're going to dive headfirst into a real passage all about the history of cookbooks. And trust me, this one is perfect. Why? Because it's absolutely packed with the exact kind of tricky questions and vocabulary you're going to see on test day. We're going to unpack it together, step by step, so you feel totally ready and confident when you walk into that exam. All right, let's jump right in. First up, skill number 1, decoding the main idea. This is all about figuring out what is the author really trying to say in this paragraph. Honestly, this skill is a total game changer. It's the foundation for everything else, so let's do this. Okay, take a look at this sentence right here. This single sentence, this is basically the key to the whole paragraph. It's what we call a thesis statement. The author is literally handing us the answer, telling us exactly why there are so many cookbooks out there. And what's the secret sauce? It's that promise of transformation. So what's the real takeaway here? It's that cookbooks are selling something much bigger than just recipes, right? They're selling a feeling, an experience. They promise to turn a boring daily chore into something fun. They're like a little gateway to another culture, a mini vacation you can take without even leaving your kitchen. That feeling of escape, that is the powerful transformation the author means. Okay, so you've got the main idea. Awesome. But what happens when you hit a word you've never seen before? First thing, don't panic. This brings us to our next huge skill, using context to figure out vocabulary. This is a massive time saver, and it means you don't need a dictionary for every single word. I'll show you exactly how it works. Okay, let's zoom in on this sentence. The word we're targeting is sloppy. So what on earth does sloppy mean? Well, the clue is right there in the sentence itself, just hiding in plain sight. Seriously, ask yourself, what kind of person allows several duplicated recipes to sneak in? What does that tell you about them? Yes, exactly. If you were thinking something like careless or messy, you absolutely nailed it. That phrase, allowing several duplicated recipes, is our smoking gun. It's the big clue that points directly to carelessness. See how that works? You just played detective and solved the mystery of the word without a dictionary. This skill is so important for the IELTS. And this is exactly how you can build your vocabulary on the fly during the actual test. Whenever you see a word like sloppy, don't just skip it. Hunt for those context clues and link it to words you already know, like careless, messy, or even unprofessional. It's an incredible trick to keep your momentum going and not get bogged down. Okay, so we're getting good at understanding individual words, but the IELTS takes it a step further. It wants to see if you can connect the dots between ideas. And that brings us to our next big skill, tracing cause and effect. We're going to look at how one thing leads to another. And this is where the passage gets really interesting. You'd think that the invention of the printing press would make everything more accurate and reliable, wouldn't you? I mean, that's just common sense. But the author tells us the reverse was true. How crazy is that? The cause, this amazing new technology, actually had the opposite effect. It led to an explosion of plagiarism and recipes getting totally distorted. And to prove their point, the author gives us this absolutely perfect and kinda hilarious example. Get this. A recipe in 1596 called for 3 or 4 dates. But by 1653, thanks to all that copying and distortion, it had changed to setting the dish aside for 3 or 4 days. Can you even imagine? That small typo completely ruins the dish. It's a fantastic detail that makes the point so clearly. All right, moving on. A lot of IELTS passages aren't just about abstract ideas. They introduce you to important people. And that leads us perfectly into our next skill, comparing key figures. This is a classic. The passage introduces 3 innovators, and our job is to figure out who's who and what made each of them special. So let's break this down. As you can see, these 3 innovators were aiming at totally different audiences. First, in the UK, you've got Isabella Beeton. She was all about the urban middle class. Her focus was super practical. How much will it cost? How long will it take? Next, you jump over to France, and it's a completely different world with Auguste Escoffier. He wasn't writing for home cooks. He was writing for the pros, the superstar chefs. His work was like the ultimate reference book for fancy French cooking. And then, over in the USA, you have Fanny Farmer. Her big thing was turning cooking into a science, using precise measurements to make it reliable for the average American home cook. So, yeah, 3 people, 3 totally different goals. Okay, time for our final skill. And this one is a bit more advanced. We're talking about inference. This is where you have to be a real detective and read between the lines. It's all about figuring out what the author is suggesting without them ever saying it outright. So, check out this quote about another author, Elizabeth David. The passage says that even if people could not very often make the dishes, it was stimulating to think about them. That's a huge clue, isn't it? What does it suggest if the joy came from just thinking about the food, not necessarily making it? Well, what it implies is that her books were really more about inspiration than instruction. They weren't just step-by-step manuals. They were selling something bigger, an aspirational lifestyle. They were designed to create this desire for new foods and new experiences. The real value wasn't in the recipe, but in the dream. And that right there is the crucial point, the big inference we're supposed to make. Her books weren't really cooking manuals at all. They were, as the text says, guides to the kind of food people might well wish to eat. It was about the wishing, the dreaming, the possibility of it all. That was the magic. And there you have it. We've just walked through 5 absolutely essential skills for your IELTS reading: finding main ideas, figuring out vocab from context, tracing cause and effect, comparing key figures, and making inferences. So now it's over to you. Take a look at this question. How would you put it all together? Go ahead and pause here, give it a shot. Remember, practice is everything. Keep using these skills and you'll be in amazing shape for the test. Thanks so much for joining me and best of luck.